Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Supply Chain Talks. Today is the fourth episode of the purchase process tutorial. So far, we have looked at the introduction of the purchase process, and then we went through the first two steps, which are need recognition and need definition. Today, we are going to review the third step of the process, which is supply source. This step in the purchase process deals with the identification of all possible sources of supply for the material or service that has been requested within the organization. Supplier selection starts with determining all potential sources of supply and continues till elimination of these suppliers on various grounds as per the organizational requirements until a workable few are left. The question arises, how do we do this? The mechanism for this is to define a selection criteria, and the selection criteria has to be in accordance with the organizational goals and objectives. In the past few years, the supplier selection criteria has undergone major changes, basically due to increased quality guidelines, more focus on safety and security, anti-corruption, and compliance. Once the selection criteria is defined, the next step in the process is to generate a list of potential suppliers. The depth of the list of potential suppliers basically depends on the value, complexity, and criticality of the purchase. Now, if we are buying a simple item, a low value item, then the number of suppliers can be limited. But if the value of the purchase is high and also it's a complex and critical purchase, then it's a better option to have a wider range of alternative suppliers available to allow the purchase or the team to make an optimal decision. Once the list of potential suppliers is defined, the next step is to do the shortlisting. The shortlisting needs to be done based on the selection criteria that was defined. Let's have a look at a few examples of selection criteria. Is the supplier approved? Is the supplier reliable? What is the location of the supplier? Is it a local supplier or an overseas supplier? What is the technical capability of the supplier? Is the supplier financially strong? What are the logistical capabilities of the supplier? Quality of their product or services? What is their production capacity? What are the payment terms they are offering? Do they have an after-sales service? The criteria shown is not in any set order of importance. So based on your organization or the type of purchase that you are doing, you need to pick the best criteria for supplier selection. So now once the criteria is defined, you have the list of potential suppliers. The last step, as we mentioned, is the shortlisting. Now the shortlisting is done based on these criteria, and an assessment based on the selected criteria is done for each supplier. Let's have an example. On the left side of this table are the selection criteria like payment terms, reputation of the supplier, product reliability, service reliability, and supplier flexibility. The best way to conduct an assessment is to define weightage against each criteria based on their importance. In this case, the payment terms and product reliability has the highest importance, so it has been given 30% each. Supplier reputation is 20%, whereas service reliability and supplier flexibility is 10% each. Based on the scores given against each criteria, a final score is defined. In this case, it is 3.5 against a maximum of 4. We do a similar assessment for each and every potential supplier. And a certain score threshold needs to be defined so that any supplier assessment falling above that threshold is selected or shortlisted for the next step of the purchase process. So this basically concludes our tutorial today for the supply source. Thank you very much. And if you have any comments and queries, please leave them in the comment section below.